because we're seeing more kids with autism and other disabilities getting the dogs. And I kind of wondered how the legality of the whole thing worked with respect to public schools. So I went and just did a little reading about service dogs and companion dogs, and I learned they're not the same thing. A service dog is something that's defined in Title II and III of the ADA. And basically the definition is any dog that is individually trained to do work or perform tasks for an individual with a disability. So the focus here is a distinction between a service dog and a companion dog. And it's somewhat of a specious distinction and depends on how you characterize what the dog does, because a companion dog supposedly doesn't have any specific duties, but a service dog does things for the person who's the dog handler, which in this case would be the student, that helps him function in spite of his disability. So if you had anxiety attacks and your service dog was trained to come and comfort you in a certain way when you started getting anxious, you can see that even with companionship, it's more like an accommodation, or not an accommodation, but a support. And if you look at the whole question of service dogs, they're used for psychiatric reasons. They're used to prevent seizures. We have the more obvious ones like seeing eye dogs, but we have also something called a social signal or a sensory signal dog, which is a dog that for the autistic child is trained to react if, for example, the child is engaging in inappropriate self-stimulatory behavior. So you want your dog to be defined as a service dog, not a companion dog, because it's easier to get him or her into school. The dog also has to be manageable. In other words, the school takes no responsibility for the behavior of the dog or the toileting of the dog. That has to all be handled by the handler, which is the student. On the other hand, if you show that a dog is a service dog, he can't be excluded because somebody has allergies or dog phobias. And that was one of my questions, was how come somebody can't say, I'm allergic to dog hair and this is making me sick. And there's a whole bunch of discussion that I'm not going to get into about who you move and how you do it if somebody says they're allergic. So the Title II entities, which as you'll remember are the governmental programs, have to allow the dogs in as long as they're service dogs and they're necessary in order to support the disabled person. The same is true for the private entities under Title III. And so if you were living in a private apartment building that had a no pets policy and you had a service dog, under Title III, you can't exclude the dog under the no pets policy. You also can't say to the person, so do you have this dog because you have schizophrenia? Instead, what you have to ask is the animal required to provide, some kind of support to you, and if so, what? So in other words, you're not allowed to inquire about the disability or stigmatize the person about it. So the ADA does authorize a service dog at school, and if it's a companion dog and not a service dog, but you get the IEP team to write it into the IEP, it could be there under those auspices. But I think an IEP team is not going to be quick to say, we'll do this even though we don't have to, so you want to characterize the dog as a service dog. Colleges also have to admit service dogs, as do ground and air travel. And, basically the analysis, just to go over it, is going to be, one, is the dog necessary? Is the dog a service dog, which is assisting somebody with a disability? And two, what work or task has the dog been trained to perform? So you're going to be able to get your service dog into school as long as you can make that showing and as long as you can show that your dog is well-behaved, housebroken, doesn't, attack other kids. And so we may want to have some more discussion. I know people are doing this. I have one client now that has a child with fetal alcohol, and she's using the service dog in school to deal with some of her daughter's meltdowns, and apparently it's quite effective. So I just wanted people to know about that because it was something that I didn't really know about, but I'd always been curious about.